So now once you have all this mana stored up, by the way, this is a creative item only. I just placed this down instead of having to find a nice generation method for mana. But this is a creative only item, so don't think about trying to get this in your world. We need to start using it for things. And you might have noticed when we're doing the generating floor, some of these items require things called runes, which require the runic altar. Now, the runic altar is just 5 living rock with a mana diamond or mana pearl, which is just dropping the item inside a pool. So that's a ender pearl into a pool, and the other one's just a diamond. So we go ahead and get ourselves a runic altar. There we go, we have our runic altar. Now we need to supply it with mana, and you guessed it, we need to use a mana spreader for that. So mana spreader, just hook it up to the hook up the back to the to your mana pool, and just have it point directly at the runic altar, and you'll know it's working when you see the runic altar symbol at the bottom. So then what you need to do is figure out what rune you need to make. So I want to make, let's say, the rune of fire. So I need a piece of gunpowder, wart, nether brick, and mana steel, which is, by the way, just dropping iron inside a mana pool. So just to demonstrate that, let's get some iron. You can see that you just drop it in there. Whoops, if I can drop it in. But if you drop it in there, you'll get your mana equivalent. And this also works with the block form, so that works as well. Actually haven't tested this, yes. I wonder if you can drop a block. I didn't think so. But to get a mana diamond, all you simply do is just drop a diamond in there. And to get a mana pearl, you just simply just drop a pearl in there. Easy enough. So now that we have this thing supplied with mana, we need to supply it with the items. So we need a nether wart, a nether brick, gunpowder, and mana steel. Now to insert these items inside the runic altar, just right click it. And it will just go into the altar, and then you shift right click it to get the item out. So again, it's really easy to do that. So now I need to get the other items, which is the nether wart, nether brick, and gunpowder. Whoopsies, gunpowder. There we go. So we just go ahead and put all these items inside the altar. And now that we have all our items there, we can go ahead and start the process. So just simply right click the runic altar with your wand of forest, and this mana spreader will start pumping mana into the altar. And then once it's done, let's go ahead and get it back to noon. Once it's done, you'll know by this little ball here shooting out lightning particles like that. So once it's done, all you have to do is drop a piece of living rock on top of it. I just simply like doing it. It's really easy to just get on top and just drop it down. But you put living rock on top of it, and then you right click. And bam, we now have our rune of fire. So that's how you create all these different runes. As you can see, there's rune of fire, there's rune of winter, so it would just be doing all this stuff, and then there's rune of water. So you just do all these different things to create these runes, which you can use to create either, you know, the Kekameris, the Thermal Lily, the different instruments. There's different items that you can create inside the runic altar. And you can see there's all these different runes everywhere, which is nice. Alright, so now that we have also the runic altar done, let's go ahead and start using this mana to do some cool things now, shall we? Let's just go ahead and fill this in. So now that we have all the crafting components done, we can start using this mana for some really cool things. So if we go ahead and go to the functional flora tab, these are all the different flowers that can use mana to do some really cool things. So we're just gonna go ahead and go down the list and just go over each flower. So starting with the agricarnation. The agricarnation, when given some mana, will simply allow things to grow quicker. So if I get some seeds and a hoe, boom. So if I just go ahead and till this dirt, put some seeds down, you should see that these seeds will start to sparkle in a second. But there you go. They're starting to tick, and they're starting to grow faster, like that. So once you see that little particle effect apply, which means that the agricarnation is now working its magic on these different seeds. So this is basically like the current equivalent of farming speed up, like a watering can type thing, or a lamp of growth. So it's use the agricarnation, and this will help speed up the growth. And you can put down more flowers if you want to speed it up even faster. So again, it's just a nice, like a bone meal style thing. The next one on our list is the Bellthorn. Bellthorn will damage any entities besides yourself that are in the area. So let's go ahead and get a pig. And you can see the Bellthorn damages the pig for us, so it's a really nifty way to do some mob farms. And the next one on our list is the Clayconia. So given that you put some sand nearby, that sandstone, if you put some sand nearby, it will go ahead and turn it into clay for you. So again, if you really need some clay, like ASAP, you can just simply spam some sand, and you'll get some clay out of it. So you only get the clay ball form. So you can see I put down half the stack of sand, and I got clay balls. So this is not really a good way to get clay blocks, but if you need like emergency clay, it's a really good trade-off. So the Daffodil works sort of like the fan from Open Blocks, where if you put it down and you put an item down, it will blow the item away from it. So it's got a decent range, actually. You can see that it pushed the item all the way over here, and it still even goes from this direction. So it went like all the way over here. And that's a really far distance away. It's like probably about 15 blocks or so. But you can see that there's little particle effects of wind. I know that's kind of hard to see, but you can see a little wind particle effects. And to change direction, just simply shift right click with your wand of the forest, and now it'll blow the items that way. So it's really helpful if you're trying to create an item farm, for example, and you don't want to use water. You can use a Daffodil instead. And it doesn't work in other directions. It only works in one direction at a time. So now the Dreadthorn is sort of like the Bellthorn, where the Dreadthorn the Bellthorn hurt any mob in the area. This one will only hurt adults. So if you're trying to create some kind of breeding area, you can simply have all these babies around that you want, but no adults will survive. So this is one way to create a nice little breeding farm. The Exoflame is an interesting little flower. What this will do is this will cause furnaces to heat up faster. So if I go ahead and put some oak wood in here, you can see I don't need any fuel, but the Exoflame will go ahead and provide the fuel for me. And it also provides an efficiency boost, so you can see that the items are actually burning a lot quicker than if I wasn't using a regular Exoflame. So if I can put this here, you can see it's not burning, and if I use this, you can see how slow that arrow goes, but if I look in this one, the arrow is going a lot faster. So this is a really efficient way to really speed up your furnace if you have no alternative. Fallen Canade is a pretty easy to use flower. Just plop it down, and this will heal any players in the nearby area. It has a very short radius of 2 blocks. If you go to 3 blocks, you won't get healed, but if you go in 2 blocks, you will get healed. So it's a very small radius of effect, but again, it's regeneration 3, which is a very nice effect. The High-Side Dream is an interesting flower. This thing will make mobs go against each other. So you can see they're now firing at each other while they're on fire. Yeah, my puns are bad. Hopperhawk's an interesting flower. Just plop it down and plop an inventory next to it. Drop the item, and this thing will suck up items next to it and plop it in the inventory. Now you can supply this thing with mana if you prefer. And if you supply it with mana, it just means it has a really big radius to pick up items. So this should pick up the item and put it in there. And I picked up the bones from actually all the way over here. So if I just let this sit there, eventually it'll pick it up and put it in there. So it's a really interesting flower if you need some kind of automatic item pickup method. So the Hyacinthus is an interesting flower. This will poison any mobs nearby and bring them to 1 health, so that way you can one-hit kill them. So if we just wait for this pig to lose the rest of his health, he will be poisoned down to 1 hit point, and so there you go. Now he is poisoned, and I can simply one-hit punch him. And this works for any mobs in the area. The Jaded Amaranthus is an interesting flower. This thing will generate mystical flowers for you. So you can see this will spawn mystical flowers for us. So if we are running low on flowers, we can pop down a Jaded Amaranthus and get ourselves some more flowers. So the Giulia is an interesting flower. Think of it like the interdiction ritual from Blood Magic. Any mobs nearby will be pushed away. So this is another way also to create a mob farm if you want to use this instead of water. So you can even put them inside the circle, but they will still be pushed out and away from. Now, one of my personal favorites at the end game of Botania is called the Lunium. What this will do, this will generate any kind of dungeon loot in the game and just make it appear out of thin air. So we can see over there, our first drop was a name tag. The second drop should be arriving very shortly. Should be getting another drop. Basically anywhere. There's our drop over here. So this drop was 10 ingots from industrial craft. So this will generate any kind of dungeon loot, and you can just go ahead and collect it and just keep it for yourself. So if you're really, struggling to get some dungeon loot like Logic Matrix Programmer or some Iridium ore from industrial craft, this is one really good way to go ahead and get some. Or, as my personal favorite, this is a really good way to get Blood Magic Catalyst, because I do not like crafting these things. They take a lot of time to make, and I just like to be able to just plop it down and just get some catalysts. The orchid is a very, very expensive flower to use. What this will do is that any nearby smooth stone in the area, this will take it and convert it into ores. So let's just go ahead. Oh, that was quick. So you can see that the raw stone I placed was turned into iron ore. And this one was turned into coal ore, and this thing will just simply create ores for us out of thin air. So that time we got aluminum ore from Tinkers. So this will just go through the World Gen ore dictionary and just figure out different ores and then just pick one at random and then spawn it. Of course, it will go into the whole commonality thing, so you can see we're getting more coal than anything else. But this will definitely go and create some ores from you, which is really helpful to have. So Polydesiac is an interesting flower. Just plop it down, and any animals in the area, so those two guys, for example, will, be bred and be fed into a better mood, so the book says, and just allow them to breed and create a baby. So this one is also another personal favorite of mine, a combination with the Kekimaris. So let's actually go ahead and let's get some cake. And what block do I want to use? Let's use lapis. We'll get 2 of these. So if I go ahead and get a Kekimaris, and let's get ourselves a mana pool so I can demonstrate this pretty well. So now the Kekimaris, what's really nice about this thing is that it generates mana, based on cake that's placed in the world. But it's really hard and annoying to have to place down a cake manually and to generate the mana that way. So what was really nice is that you can use the runic. I hope I said that right. And this serves as a right-click block. So the way that you use this is you place it down in the world, and you can see under here it says dirt. So what this will do is this will look underneath the block it's currently on to know what block to put things on. So you can see right now it doesn't have anything. If I put a piece of, let's do mana quartz. If I put mana quartz down, you'll see now it's block of mana quartz. And then I can instead, plop down a lapis lazuli block. That's a mana pool. I can plop down a lapis lazuli block, and now it's searching for lapis lazuli blocks to put on. So if I put down a lapis lazuli block here, it will put anything it finds that's dropped in item entity form on that block. Like that. So, how is this handy for you, say? Well, drop a cake, places it on the lapis lazuli block, put down your mana spreader, and put down your mana pool. You could see that. So you see how this works? You can drop your cakes here, and what this will do is that, once the cake is done, it will put it down, and I'm generating mana with an automatic cake machine. So this thing, it just serves as a right-click block. Another application that you can have for this is if I get a sapling, for example, and I put the dirt back down there, and I drop a sapling, it's going to plant it on one of these 2 blocks, and then I can simply get an automatic tree cutting machine, drop another sapling on here, and rinse and repeat. So the next one is the Tangleberry. Unlike the Geolulia, I really hope I'm saying these flower names right. Unlike the Geolulia, the Tangleberry will keep mobs inside the circle. So if we go ahead and get ourselves a Tangleberry and a pig, we see if we plop down the Tangleberry, put a pig in here, we can try to push it out all we want, but there'll be eventually a point where it won't go any further, and it will just hit this invisible wall, and it won't go any further. So you can see a white particle effect that's hitting it. It's really hard to see when you're pushing it. So right there, it's hitting this wall, and it's not going to be going any further. And what's even nice is that apparently it even has a diagonal access to it, or a circular style access to it. So if you want to keep the animals in, use a Tangleberry. If you want to keep them out, use a Geolulia. Now I know a lot of people are going to love this one. This one's called the Tiger's Eye. This one, given a creeper nearby, and let's make sure that I'm on difficulty 1. So if I put a creeper down here, he is going to walk away from me. So there you go. The Tiger's Eye will make him afraid of me and make him run away. Every player's greatest dream. So I can walk back to this Tiger's Eye after I aggravate him, and he's now going to run away from me. See? Run away. And the last flower that's on our list is the Vincu Lotus. This one will prevent Endermen from teleporting elsewhere. So what you can do is if I set it to nighttime, and let's get an Enderman. So what you can do is if I get the Vincu, this one, if I put an Enderman down, if I, hit him, he's going to teleport and go straight to that flower. This makes it really easy for Enderman catching. So like that. Just like that. I can control his teleports and keep him in a safe area. Hey, look at that. He got me a pearl. And now I can use the mana pearl, and you can see where I'm going with that. Alright, I went ahead and switched worlds to go ahead and start showcasing some of the other things Botania has to offer besides all the mana generation. We're going to start going over some of the items that you can create and some of the blocks that are available inside of Botania. So let's start off with the decorative blocks. So you already know about living wood and living rock. So these are all the different permutations, we'll say, of living wood. So you can get the planks, you can get mossy planks. That's just with seeds. You can get framed living wood, which is just 4 living wood planks together. So you can see that these are, different ways of getting the same thing, and they're just different decorative things. There's one block called the Azuljo. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. This one is just a lapis lazuli with a block of quartz, and then you can get all these other ones by simply crafting the one before it. So you can get this one by crafting the first one that you make. You get the first one you get crafting by crafting the last one, and so on and so forth. If you just keep crafting them, you'll keep cycling through all of them and eventually get back to the start. Here's all the living wood, living rock types. So there's basic, there's regular bricks, mossy, cracked, framed, regular stairs, and then frame stairs. And then there's reed block, which is just a bunch of sugarcane together. There's thatch block, which is a bunch of wheat together. Hellish brick, which is a netherrack style brick. There's soul brick, which is soul sand. Frosty brick, which is snow. And then there's the roof tile, which is bricks. And you might notice prismarine. This is a, let's call this a backwards port from the snapshots of Minecraft 1.8. You can get this actually by going to miscellaneous prismarine, and it says some say it may be even from the future. And to create it, one requires an alchemy catalyst, which we'll get to shortly. And you toss a nether quartz into a mana pool. So you toss a nether quartz into the pool with an alchemy catalyst, and you get prismarine shards. So you can get all the different permutations of prismarine that are available in the game. So you get prismarine bricks, which is all of these. You get dark prismarine, which is prismarine over nether brick, and then the sea lantern, which is prismarine over glowstone. So there's kind of a backporting of prismarine. And behind me is the wall of quartz. Make sure it's noontime. So if we go over to the wall of quartz, this is different types of quartz that you get, -1, which we'll get to shortly. All the different types of quartz blocks you can get. So you can get mana quartz, which is tossing a quartz block into a mana pool. I don't remember where that actually is right off the top of my head. Let's see, maybe it's in here. It's not. But mana quartz is you toss quartz into a mana pool when it doesn't have the alchemy catalyst underneath. So we'll get to that shortly. Lavender quartz is just lavender quartz dye, so you can either use flowers or purple dye. Actually, no, you have to use flowers. Never mind. There's smoky quartz, which is charcoal or coal quartz, and then blaze quartz, which is, of course, a blaze powder with quartz. And then you can get all the different permutations of quartz with that. So those are the decorative blocks of Botania. Most of these are pretty easy to get, including these ones. These are very easy to get. It's just one piece of lapis with quartz. So you see one piece of lapis with quartz, and then you can get any type of one that you want. My personal favorite is actually the living wood, especially with the framed, the planked, and the glimmering living wood. These are my personal favorites to build with, along with living rock brick. So Those are some of the decorative blocks. I figured now would be a good time to actually talk about it, since I already mentioned it briefly, is let's talk about alchemy with Botania. So what you're going to need to start that is the alchemy catalyst, which is created with a mana pearl, 2 brewing stands, 2 gold ingots, and 4 living rock. So let's go ahead and get one of those. Catalyst. So if you put it under your mana pool, you see in the picture, you place it under the mana pool, and then you can start doing all these different cool things with it. So, for example, you can toss rotten flesh to get leather. You can toss in some wood and then change it to any type of wood. And you can change up the saplings. So let's go ahead and get a couple things here just so we can test for demonstration. Let's get some wood. So we'll do one of those, and then we'll do a sapling. So, for example, if you really need some leather, there you go. Got some leather now. Or if you really want different types of wood, go ahead and just start changing it up. So now I'm back to darkwood, and let's say I have a bunch of oak saplings. I have 6 oak saplings, but I want to get all 6 types of trees without having to go venture out. I can simply take these oak saplings, toss it in, and then I have a spruce sapling. I can toss this one in, and I'll have another spruce sapling. Oh look, now I have birch. Now I have 2 types of saplings that I want. And I can keep doing this. So now I have those. Let's go ahead and convert these over. You can see, just by doing this, do that. So now I have acacia, and if I top the last one in, I now have all 6 types of saplings, just from doing alchemy with mana. Whoopsies. Come on, birch. So there you go. That's one way you can start using your mana for other means. And of course there are other uses for it. So you can break down your glowstone. You can break down your quartz blocks. You can change the stone bricks into chiseled stone bricks. Like I said, there's a lot of things you can do. You can change over different types of fish if you need the fish. You can change over your crops if you're trying to get melons or carrots or anything like that. You can change a blaze rod to netherwort if you are having a really hard time trying to find a netherwort or a fortress. You can exchange flint for gunpowder, which is really nice because there are some times where you just can't find creepers, but you don't. You have tons of flint from all the gravel that you've been digging up. And again, you just keep going through here. You can find all different types of recipes, including ways to get name tags, and so on and so forth, and converting to get ender pearls, which is actually, this is really nice to have. So again, that's basically alchemy with mana. You just look through this book of all the recipes that you have, and you can use this to do a lot of interesting things. The obtruse platform is a pretty interesting block. If you go ahead and you stack it up, you have some kind of area underneath that you can fall. Just build a quick 3x3 platform here. You can see I can walk on it like a normal platform, but then if I shift, I fall right through it. So it's an interesting way if you want a nice little floor that you can have, and you have a basement. So let's say you have some walls over here, and you just want to have a nice floor, but you don't want to have an area where you can just have to have a ladder or something. You can just simply shift, and you're down through the floor, and you can have a ladder or something if you want. You can also have these as invisible floors. They only work if you stand on top of them, and it's also a really interesting way to have a ladder. So if you just go ahead and stack this up. So say I want to use this as my ladder, I can simply walk in and then just keep jumping. And eventually I can make my way up. Eventually I'll get my way up to the top. And there you go, just like that. That's one interesting way to get through to have a ladder. You can just use obtruse platforms. Now, if you remember from the last part, we talked about the jaded amaranthus, which generates flowers out of thin air. Well, it's kind of really hard to collect them and have to build like this water system and keep destroying the jaded amaranthus, replacing it, all that stuff. Well, there's a nice and easy block, we'll call it, for you. It's called the Drum of the Wild, and if you give it a mana burst, by the way, this is a redstone mana spreader, which is just a mana spreader with redstone, and this just responds to redstone signals no matter how much mana it has. If you shoot mana burst at it, it will break all the flowers nearby. So I can place, more flowers. Let's say the jaded amaranthus made more flowers, and I want to break it. Bam. All the flowers are gone, and I can just go ahead and walk around, pick them up. And now I have all my flowers. So Drum of the Wild is really good in combination with the jaded amaranthus. Now again, another animal breeding mechanic is called the Eye of the Ancients, which, if you look at the entry, it says that there's something that's always looking out for living beings. By attaching a comparator next to this, it'll send a redstone signal equivalent to the amount of animals it can find. So the counting only starts at 2. So that's just to make sure that you don't accidentally kill your animals. So let's go ahead and spawn a... let's do a sheep. So let's get a sheep. So, see, I'm not going to get anything coming out of this. Now I'll get a signal of 1 because I have the 2 initial animals that it asked for. So counting only starts at 2. With 2, it starts with a strength of 1. And then if I put 3 animals, I will get a signal strength of 2. If I put in 4 animals, I'll get a signal strength of 3. 5 animals, signal strength of 4, and you can see it. So it could be your redstone signal count is always going to be 1 less than the amount of animals in front of it. So this is another nice way to keep track of how many animals you have in your pens. So for you redstoners out there, there's a nifty little gadget for you, and it's called the force relay. And what this will do is this will basically be a wireless piston and relay the force of a piston push across any distance. So you get it by dropping a piston inside a mana pool, and now we have a force relay. So if we go ahead and drop down a force relay, you can move any block basically wirelessly with a piston. So I want to move this block here. If I right-click the force relay, as you'll see I get this ding letting you know I clicked it. And if I go ahead and click on this block, it's now going to be physically bound to that block. So if I use a piston on it, it's going to go ahead and move it. And this doesn't work with sticky pistons. So if I go ahead and push it back, you'll see that that block doesn't move. But I can do it again and then move that block forward. So you can see it's an interesting way to go ahead and move your blocks across the... That was interesting. Okay. It's an interesting way to move your blocks across the terrain. So let's go ahead and shut that off so we don't do that again. So you can simply push it forward and then push the block back. Push it forward again and then push the block back. So again, it's another way to do it. So it doesn't work with sticky pistons, but it does work with pistons. And just in case you guys are curious, no, this does not move tile entities. So don't go ahead and try to move things like furnaces and stuff like that. It won't work with those. So again, we're hitting one of my other favorite personal blocks of this spawn, and it's called the mana pylon. So if we go ahead and see the mana pylon, which should be right here, it's made by 2 mana steel ingots and a mana diamond with 2 gold in the top. And the use of these, if we go ahead and read the entry, you can put it next to an enchanting table, and just having 2 of these will reach level 30. So if we go ahead and get ourselves an enchanting table and a mana pylon, we put down the enchanting table, we can see that, oh, I needed something to enchant. Let's do wooden sword. So we can put that in there, we'll see we'll get to level 8. If we put down one of these, levels instantly shoot up to like level 16, level 16, yeah, level 16 is the highest one we can get. If I put another one down, we'll see we'll get straight to level 30. So it only requires, if you want to sacrifice 2 diamonds to get yourself level 30 enchanting, I'd say this is the way to go. It's pretty darn cheap for 30 levels, and you can get some pretty interesting designs with just having 2 mana pylons or other mana pylons. An interesting thing I like to do personally is I have my little corner of the room, and I put my 2 mana pylons here with the enchanting table right there. So it's level 30, and it doesn't take up that much room. Next up on our list is the open crate. So if we go ahead and get ourselves an open crate, it's just made by a whole bunch of living wood planks in a N shape. What this will do is we also need to get ourselves a hopper, actually. So if we go ahead and put this over air, so we'll put it over here, and if we have a hopper or some kind of item duct or item conduit feeding into it, any item that we drop into it, so actually let's just go ahead and get ourselves a stack of grass. Any items that we drop into the hopper will get dropped into the open crate and dropped straight down perfectly. So you can see that every time I drop it, it drops straight down. So it's a really nifty way if you want something to drop in a perfectly straight fashion and you want to hit it the same spot every time. So I can simply just drop this and it's always going to drop in a perfectly straight line. So it's really handy if you want to do something like this. So let's get ourselves an endo flame. So let's say I want to have some kind of automatic fueling system. I can go ahead and get myself a thing of coal. I can have it drop out of the hopper into the open crate, drop onto the endo flame, and eventually the endo flame will suck up the coal. I think I need a mana spreader for this. So the endo flame will suck up the coal, and we can now use it to power something. So we can see the mana spreader is now getting all that mana, and we can now use it for stuff, which is really nice. So the next thing on our list is the spreader turntable, and simply put it under a mana spreader, and the mana spreader will start spinning around and going in multiple directions. So it's really kind of useful if you have a setup like this, for example, where you want the mana spreader to hit other different mana pools. So this thing will automatically turn for you, so you won't have to worry about actually turning the block. And you can simply speed it up or slow it down by right-clicking on the turntable. And you can see how fast it's going by how many arrows there are. So 6 arrows is the fastest speed, while 1 arrow is the slowest speed. So let's go ahead and put it on fast mode. And so we can see it's actually going so fast, it's skipping the middle one. So let's actually put it on 5. Maybe that'll be perfect. So it's going to shoot into that one, then it's going to shoot into that one. Maybe we need to go on 4. So now it's going to... So this speed looks like it's about the right speed, so that way we can shove it in all the mana pools at once. So again, you just right-click to change the speed, and if you want to go ahead and turn it off, you can simply apply a redstone signal and it will turn it off. Alright guys, so that'll do it for about this part of the tutorial. Just to recap, this part of the tutorial we covered the mana using flowers, all the decorative blocks, and some of the actual functional blocks that are covered in Botania. And in the third part, which will probably be the last part, we'll go over all the tools, weapons, and endgame parts of Botania. That shouldn't take much longer. I think it'll be about probably another 20 to 30 minute tutorial, but that should eventually cover it up. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.